Hi, this is video 3 of Metaphysics of Being. I'll continue on with the previous discussion. I'm going to start just by reading from the book and then we'll go to the board. Therefore, it is only when we consider the world in a finite, limited manner that an incremental step of one half has relevance to another incremental step of one. Moreover, since we know that the world is infinite and not finite, it means that our being at location one half is really 1 over infinity, which approaches a limit of 0 in a relative sense and 0 in an absolute sense. It is nowhere. Picture a center of a circle where the radii approach from all angles. The radii will never touch each other at the center, since if they did, it would merge with the radii approaching from the other direction. All radii approach in an infinite regress of a limit of 0 distance from the center. Therefore, a circle is built with units of nothing. The circle is not only built of nothing at its very center, but it is also throughout its totality. At each level, the circle is built with circles of nothing at its foundation and throughout. This again is one of Euclid's fundamental definitions, which are the foundation of mathematics. The incremental unit of something is built of nothing. It is there in a macro sense, and it is also not there in a micro sense. We are so far away from the true absolute reality when we try to consider it that we think that this infinite approximation we have can be close enough to the truth, that we can call it truth. So what I was saying there is that our perceived world that we live in is this mass approximation of what the true nature of reality is. And it's been talked about for thousands of years why that is, but we as limited human beings perceive the world in a limited way, but the world is unlimited. If we again think back to a line, a finite line, our finite world that we perceive, within each finite line, concept, finite anything, is an infinite amount of points within it, an infinite amount of concepts. So there's just a paradox right there that you, on the one hand, call something finite, and we live in this finite conceivable world. Within it is an infinite amount of units. So there's a paradox there. Proof that nothing exists is the fact that nothing separates two lines on a number line. If nothing did not separate the two lines, they would be one. There is something there which separates the two, and that is nothing. So up here I made two lines, a line here, a space, and another line, that in effect these two pieces of something are separated from nothing. And then I made a line down here, which again gets into this paradox and play on words, especially with the word nothing, because this line down here is also separated by nothing. These two lines are separated by nothing, and this one line is separated by nothing. So it's just kind of an odd play on words that this concept of nothing just doesn't seem to make sense and has dual meanings all the time. We are at the center of the universe from a relative standpoint, and an infinite amount of space, time, reality engulfs us both externally and internally. We are what calculus would call approaching a limit of 0 in relevance to the magnitude of eternity and extension. Despite this realization, we continue to conceive concepts of reality which bind us within limits of deterministic and mechanistic existence. What we should be seeking in our true nature of uniting with God and the brilliance of that opportunity of absolute freedom. Jacob Bernoulli described poetically how a finite set encloses an infinite series. No matter how large or small we try to describe and limit the world, we are always left with an infinite number of descriptions below it. Infinity always overtakes the finite. Even as the finite encloses an infinite series, and in the unlimited limits appear, so the soul of immensity dwells in minutiae, and in narrowest limits no limit in here. What joy to discern the minute in infinity, the vast to perceive in the small, what divinity. So that was something that was written by Jacob Bernoulli. He was a mathematician that lived, I think, about 400 years ago, and wrote that. And just because of these paradoxes that always come up with when you think of finite sets and infinity, and then how they philosophically relate to existence. A finite set equals an infinite set. A finite set is limited, yet it contains an infinite amount of members. Infinity plus 1 still equals infinity. Infinity minus 1 equals infinity. Therefore, if 1 should be added to something else that exists, it would not make it any bigger. For if it was of no size and was added, it cannot increase in size. And so it follows immediately that what is added is nothing. But if when it is subtracted, the other thing is no smaller, nor is it increased when it is added, clearly the thing being added or subtracted is nothing. And this is in Aristotle's Physics. So 2,000 or 2,500 years ago, he was writing about this great paradox when you start to think about how the universe started, how change exists, why there's anything at all. If you accept the premise that the universe is infinite, and we see in a finite set that it is infinite, that all of these paradoxes exist, and how can change occur, the concept of change from one thing to another occur, death to life, life to death, and any change in time or movement just seems to be a great mystery. So then we go back to that in our world we conceive of everything within these units, these understandable concrete units. So we not only travel through space-time, move in space-time on each of these discrete individual units, and that's the only way that we can make sense out of the world which we live in on a daily basis. Next, I'm going to go into something that I actually got out of Stephen Hawking's The History of Space and Time, and I've called it now the Magna Paradox. It's something that I took almost to another level. I don't know if he thought of it in this way, but I'll read what I came up with after reading some similar thoughts in Stephen Hawking's A Brief History of Time. Proof that infinity merges with zero. This example shows the critical point of creation, possibly the best. Something comes from nothing. Picture two intersecting lines that extend out towards infinity, such as, I'll just make two lines here. They will still be intersecting no matter how far away you make the intersection point to an infinite amount of distance away from your initial intersection point. So if you had two intersecting lines and you tried to start to separate them and slowly kept moving both lines and tried to separate, at some point they will become a parallel. They will only separate when the intersection point reaches infinity, and at the point where there is no intersection, such as what I have down here. The critical point is when infinity merges with zero at the tip of the intersection. Now, if you picture these two lines, and if they were going out towards infinity, both of them, how could they ever separate to become parallel? This is the paradox that I'm trying to explain here, is that if you kept separating the two lines, they'll be intersected out to a point of infinity. You can never, no matter how far out you go, there's always going to be intersected. But obviously, in the real world, we just go like that, and they're parallel. They're not intersected anymore. So how can that happen if these two lines, in theory, go out infinitely? How could they ever separate and not be intersected? And this I depict in the book here. I believe that this ultimately goes out to infinity, and at that point, when it is reached, zero and infinity merge, and that's where you get the two parallel lines. Another interesting thing about this, when they're intersecting out here to infinity, when they finally do disengage and become parallel, they could be any distance apart here. This could be 1 inch, this could be 1 mile apart of two parallel lines, 1,000,000 miles. Once this disengagement occurs to become parallel, it happens in an instant. It happens in no time at all. So you're out here 1,000,000 miles out, you're still intersecting 2,000,000 miles out, and when that disengagement occurs to become separated here, the distance between these two lines can be of any distance. It doesn't matter how big or small this distance of separation is. In an instant, they will become parallel. So I just thought that that is an amazing thing, of how something so common that two lines intersect and become parallel, when thought of in this metaphysical sense, seems to be impossible. But yet it is possible. So with that, I will leave you with that. Thank you.